During the Burma campaign of the Second World War, the jungles became a second enemy, as deadly as the Japanese forces. Soldiers fighting in the dense, humid forests often said the jungle felt alive, watching them and waiting for a mistake. For many units, especially those traveling at night or cut off from supply lines, the biggest fear was not an ambush or a sniper. It was the possibility of something moving in the dark, something with teeth and claws, something that stalked silently, like the Bengal tigers that roamed the Burmese wilderness. Allied soldiers reported nights filled with strange growls, sudden screams, and patrol members vanishing without explanation. The Burmese jungles were thick, filled with tall grass, steep ravines, and hidden rivers. Soldiers often marched single file, exhausted, hungry, and sleep-deprived. In that environment, even trained troops were vulnerable to predators. The largest predator of all was the tiger. One of the most repeated wartime reports comes from Allied forces near the Chindwin River. Several patrols noted men disappearing during night halts. In one case, a soldier standing guard suddenly stopped responding. When the patrols searched with their dim torches, they found drag marks leading into the darkness. A few hours later, they heard a roar echo through the jungle. By morning, nothing remained except torn equipment and blood-stained earth. These stories spread quickly among the troops, and commanders warned their men never to sleep alone at the edges of the camp. Japanese troops faced the same danger. A translated diary from a captured Japanese soldier describes how their unit lost 3 men in a single week to what they believed was a large tiger. They heard it circling their camp at night, brushing against the bamboo walls, growling just beyond the firelight. The writer noted that even trained soldiers became terrified, refusing to sleep unless the fire stayed bright. Many Japanese units in Burma lacked food and ammunition, forcing them to move quietly and in the dark. This made them easy targets for predators. One particularly chilling story comes from a British reconnaissance team traveling along a narrow jungle trail in early 1944. The team halted to rest, and one soldier walked a few meters away to relieve himself. Moments later, the men heard a heavy rustling and a short, sharp cry. They rushed forward with rifles ready, but the soldier had vanished. A deep claw mark on a nearby tree suggested what happened. The search party followed the tracks for nearly an hour, but turned back when they realized the tiger was still nearby, circling them. The jungle fell silent, and the men retreated carefully, never forgetting the experience. Local Burmese villagers often warned both Allied and Japanese forces to avoid certain areas known for man-eating tigers. In some villages, elders claimed that tigers became more aggressive during wartime because the sounds of gunfire, the smell of blood, and the movement of thousands of soldiers disturbed their hunting grounds. Whether this was superstition or truth, soldiers noticed that tiger sightings increased after major battles. The wounded, the dead, and the chaos of retreating armies created conditions where predators could approach more freely. In another account, Indian soldiers of the British Indian Army reported hearing a tiger prowling around their temporary camp. They described how the animal circled them for hours, its eyes glowing faintly when caught by the fire. The men fired warning shots, but the tiger did not flee. It waited patiently in the trees. When dawn came, they discovered paw prints almost the size of a human hand. Although these stories vary from unit to unit, Many veterans later confirmed that tigers were a real threat during the Burma campaign. The dense jungle made it impossible to see more than a few meters ahead, and soldiers often felt watched without being able to see the predator stalking them. For men already fighting exhaustion, disease, and enemy forces, the thought of being taken by a tiger was almost unbearable. One final testimony comes from an American pilot who crashed in Burma and spent several days traveling with local guides. He later wrote that a tiger followed them for hours, always staying just out of sight. At night, they could hear it breathing in the underbrush. Only by keeping a constant fire and rotating guards did the group feel safe enough to sleep. When they finally reached Allied lines, the pilot said the memory of the tiger haunted him more than the Japanese anti-aircraft fire that brought his plane down. While no official military record lists an exact number of tiger attacks during World War II, the accounts from soldiers, diaries, wartime reports, and local testimonies all point to the same conclusion. The jungles of Burma were home to a predator that did not care about sides, flags, or uniforms. It hunted silently, choosing the weakest, the alone, or the unlucky. In a war already known for its brutality, the presence of tigers added another layer of fear to an already unforgiving battlefield. These stories remind us that during World War II in Burma, soldiers were not only fighting each other, they were fighting the jungle itself. In the depths of that jungle, the tiger ruled without challenge, claiming victims from both sides of the conflict. Whether approaching silently through the long grass or roaring in the night, the tiger became a shadow of fear that lived in the minds of every man who marched through Burma's dark and ancient forests.